Hello, Shailini. How are you over there in India today?
I'm very well. So nice to see you, Joe, again after some time. And we are well as such in moral fiber. But as you know, all around in India, we are just going through difficult times.
Yeah,
But
definitely. It
we are
seems like
good. My team is well, and we are being as careful as possible.
oh, that is really good to hear. Definitely good to hear. I was just we were just reminiscing before this call, weren't we, about this time, well, last year we were talking of
Yes.
for ethical brands for Fashion Revolution, and then just before that we were together before the pandemic. We were together in India, and we had that wonderful evening. We were both speaking at a conference, and the night before we escaped, didn't we? And we headed in off by rickshaw into central Jaipur and went out for a meal, and it's such a wonderful evening.
My gosh, yes. And nobody thought that what was around the corner. None of us did. And
No.
we thought that, well, this is one nice step, and we planned how we are going to go ahead from that time onwards, what we should do, and the whole world came to kind of a halt.
It's true.
So
It's true.
yeah,
And
yeah,
and that conference as well, it was a wonderful conference, the globalization of Cardi. And
right.
again, that we had so many plans, and it was lovely to all be together and talking about these wonderful plans, like you say, that didn't all get to happen yet. But
Right.
now what wonderful memories, to look back and how we
Absolutely,
were together.
absolutely. Yeah.
Mm,
But as you know, we all stay positive, and we feel that maybe it's a bit of a time, and that is also has a purpose. I also believe that this year, or a little bit more than that, has a kind of a purpose. That the reason why this has happened in a way for a purpose.
mhm.
So of course there was a kind of a gap in what we really wanted to do and where we are now. I don't think it is apart from the pain and misery everybody has experienced. I mean, and my heart goes out to that. But there were lessons to be learned from this as well. And as a mankind, there are a lot of things that we understand, or we reconnect with from how the things were before. So
No, I agree.
that's my overall observation. Don't you think? Yeah.
Yes, no, I totally agree with you. I absolutely agree with you. I mean, we just we've hopefully learned as much positive as we can do in the devastating situations that have happened. I mean, I said we were together last January. In April, I interviewed you for Fashion
Yes.
Revolution, and everything was really starting to kick off then, wasn't it? And after this session, I'm going to share the interview that we had
Okay.
last year, so people can compare the two if they'd like to. And so at that time, we were talking about the way that the impacts that were starting to happen for the rural community and for your business and for my business. Where does it come from? And I'm aware that
Yeah.
people listening to this may not know who we are, so I'm going to
Of
ask
course.
you ask you to give a very quick introduction to yourself and to the work that you do, if that's okay.
Sure. Okay, so I'm Shailini Sheth Amin, and I have been a founder and a senior partner of an initiative called Moralfibre. We are based in India, but I have also lived and worked in the UK and few other places. So in a way, I do have a bit of a global experience of sustainability, sustainable value. I'm an architect as a profession as well. So it's in the building industry, in heritage, in various kind conservation. These are the various areas of work that I've worked with, and at the moment, I'm heavily involved with promoting sustainable and circular textile and trying to make a difference in people's understanding and awareness of how fashion industry can contribute positively to the world environment and people. So that's what
No,
we do.
and from my point of view, I'm the founder of a business called Where Does It Come From, which is all about transparency in the textile chain and telling the stories and trying to be as eco and ethical as possible. And I'm also the founder of Ethical Brands for Fashion Revolution, which is a community of ethical fashion brands who are wanting to say, we know who made your clothes, to the answer of who made my clothes. So where does it come from? Myself at the time, Just, and Shailini, we met over LinkedIn, really, wasn't it? And it was about
Yes.
2012, I think.
My gosh, yes,
Yes, a
yes.
long time ago, and gosh, nearly 10 years next year. And we've become close collaborators in terms of campaigning, in terms of business, and also friends. And I've been lucky enough to stay in Shalini's house, and we've met many times in the UK as well. So we have a strong relationship. We've built a partnership for change, which is really special for me. Really
Yeah.
lovely to talk to you.
Yeah,
Um,
partnership of friend for the kind of goals that we both strongly believe in. I think that has always been a big, very strong bond between us. That
yes.
it's almost like, you know, we learn from each other, but also we connect with each other because we have very similar and strong determination and views on things. So I think that has been very special.
It has, it definitely has, and I can't believe it's nearly 10 years.
I
That's
know.
amazing, amazing. Anyway, so that's who we are. So this is really a follow-up interview from last year because the year has gone by. It's Ethical Brands for Fashion Revolution Revisited. What we're doing as Revisited is we're looking back at some of the best, most popular events that we did last year and then revisiting with the people to see where they are now. So in that vein, I really want to ask you, Shailini, can you give us an update? How has it been for Moralfibre over the last year? How has it been for you? How has it been for the weavers and the spinners and the cooperatives and artisans that you support?
Uh, I think if I recall last time I talked about how the corona was affected just around that time we were in a lockdown. So I explained to you what effect it was having on the artisans, how they were losing work because they were completely based or reliant on shops and exhibitions, and all of that had stopped completely because of the lockdown and the conditions everywhere else. That their mobility had stopped, and it was very difficult. But I'm quite pleased to say that in all these difficulties, there have been some extremely positive changes that has happened within the artisan community and people like us in India. Um, Artisans themselves have, and the activists and people have themselves created organization like Creative Dignity and supporting artisans and all that. And they have got themselves together. The school children, the design school people have got together, and they have created a kind of a network where artisans who are based in the villages, they don't have the or many of them didn't have the know-how of how to use the camera or take the pictures and all that. So the students became buddies to these artisan groups, and they helped them through smartphones how to take the picture, how to take the nice pictures of their products and all that, and how to explain, how to give the stories. And they were put together, and some of the big sustainable fabric and craft brands, they started marketing those products, and they had done some amazing work, and that whole network is still alive and going. And I know, as I was saying, that sometimes all these difficulties get the real grassroots people and real thinkers and real action oriented people get going. And I'm really, really pleased that that has happened. And Creative Dignity and many other they have just brought the whole craft scenario or the artisan scenario in front of the community, and the community has connected with it. And now people are looking at ways to supporting them. So
That's
that was one positive story in amongst everything else that has been challenging and difficult.
that's amazing. That's wonderful. Creative Dignity. What a beautiful name as well.
Yes, isn't it? Yeah.
That's fantastic because we hear obviously with my head in ethical fashion circles, I suppose we hear about the pay up campaign where so many artisans and well more standard garment workers, I would say, were being not paid, not supported, basically left destitute when the brands who had already committed to ordering things from them didn't pay, and there was so much pressure. So it's so good to hear that there's some positive stories of people helping, and I think as well, one thing to be grateful for is the technology that we've had over the last year has helped there's a lot of people using technology now in ways that they would never have thought of before. So that kind of buddying up and support and showing them how to use the technology is invaluable, isn't it?
Absolutely right. And I was in England in between, as you know. And one of the things that impressed me about what they have done is the whole local businesses got so much support from the local community. Like even the restaurants and all that, they encourage people to go and buy or use the hairdressing salon and all that, so that your high street where you belong to, they get supported, the people get work. And I think the whole awareness of supporting the local, or what is near you, or kind of a local climate or local environment, I think that has been a great change in
Yes.
people's mindset
Yes, I think a lot of
at the
people.
lowest of the level, which is fantastic.
Yeah, I think that's really true. I think a lot of people, certainly in the UK, in my experience, were focusing on trying to keep the businesses that they love alive. We saw big businesses falling down. We've lost a lot of big businesses, and a lot of it seems like every day we're hearing of another small business that has collapsed, but also big businesses. So I think it's up to you now. If you value this, support it. I mean, where does it come from? I'm so grateful. We similar to you, we switched over to making face masks
Yes.
in May, because we lost all of our business contracts. The retail stuff just fell over because people weren't buying clothing at that time, and any clothing they were buying was things like leisure wear, so not shirts and things like that we were selling at the time. So we very much switched over to masks, which kept us going as a business. But our local paper ran an article about it, and it went all over East Anglia, which is the big bump bit at the side of England. And we had so many sales from that. It was almost like it was just constant sales coming in from people who wanted to support us, and I'm so grateful for that, because it kept us going as a business, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, as you quite rightly said, that we also had a very big campaign called Shop to Save Lives. And so far, we have sold more than 50,000 masks.
Wow.
Again, all washable, biodegradable, made by artisans. So that was our direct way of supporting. And along with that, and like what you said, we also got so much media attention and attention on the social media. So that has got small orders coming little bit,
Yeah.
and that has got us in the front line for the right kind of reason, because we really did. It was quite clear that we really wanted to support the artisan and support the community. So that really helped
Yes, I
us,
mean,
I think so.
yeah,
Yeah.
when people realize, when customers realize that the reason that you're doing it is, yes, to survive as a business, but you have another reason, which is to do the right thing. And that is what I always say to people. Yes, but every time you buy something, a mask, one of our masks, for example, you've got the QR code to trace the story, so you can see the people who are working on them. And for our masks, as you know, it was in Maharashtra, the Gram Sewa Mandal
Yeah. Yeah.
cooperative who made them. A wonderful story from there. So it gives people something a bit more. They know that they're doing good. It's not just about buying the cheapest mask. They're
Yeah.
buying a mask, and they're also supporting another institution that's
Yeah.
supporting other people. So it's a really, really positive thing. So I love that.
Fascinating stuff that you do, really.
Well, and
And
you.
I mean, this really puts everything in proper perspective, right? That,
Mm.
what we are doing, this is a time where we can show, and people can connect with it even better as well. So it just makes everything so meaningful,
Yeah.
worthwhile, and easy for people also to understand and connect to. So that's
Do you
really,
know,
really great stuff.
that's such a good word that you just said, meaningful. And I think that's been a message over the last year, hasn't it? To be more meaningful about everything that you do, every choice that you make. I think we all appreciate, or most people appreciate, the preciousness of life and of nature, and all of that thing,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
making meaningful decisions. I like that. That's a really lovely, lovely
Absolutely,
phrase. So
absolutely.
you've been very good at telling us about the positive stories, which I hugely appreciate, that you doing that. And I know that you've really battled through some struggling times over the last year, as many people have. And but I appreciate that you can look and see the positive things that come out of that, which, as we all know, is the best way to move forward.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Definitely. So we talked a little bit about nature actually there. So what do you think, in the bigger picture side of things, has been the impact on the environment and on people's perception of nature.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that, because that's exactly what we have been trying to work on and develop. So, um, lot of thinking has gone in these at this time, because the orders were coming down, but you become more observant, you become more sensitive, and you see that people around us are getting a bit more a lot more sensitive and understanding as well. They all have a kind of a pause to really think it through. And as you know, moral fiber has two pillars. One is social environmental sustainability, like what we say, moral fiber fabrics free the environment from pollution and depletion, and free people from poverty. So one side has always been the environment, and the other pillar has always been the people. And we realize that to tell the stories of the environment, which is becoming more and more significant, important, and uh, absolutely imminent, because the climate change is something that is upon us. And we have all seen what nature has gone through. And many people believe that it's a life that we have been living so far. The corona has been one of the outcomes of that, or it's one of the reasons for it. So everybody needs to really question what they are doing, and question about pollution, question about keeping our air, water, and sky clean. So what we have done, and we actually have, you will see it in probably a week or so time, that we're completely rehowling our website and our proposition. I mean, taking it to the next level. That's the best way of putting it. That Moralfibre is now very much all talking about the environment, the SDG goals, and we realize that, I mean, SDG goal also has the time frame of 2030, and we already are very much deep into it. Lots of things, it was started in 2015, and this is where we are. So everybody is really focused on getting onto those meeting up those SDG goals. And governments have been trying, various organizations have been trying, UN is trying. But one thing that we found out in our work and in our research is that at the end of the day, it is who we as individuals can do is more important. And so we have come up with another organization, which is Ahmedabad based, called Recycle Green. And they have developed ESVs, that is environmental saving values. So what they've done is that for each product that they sell, they have a kind of parameters, completely very, very deeply worked out parameters, where they work out figures, which is like, if you have say for example, a shirt, which is a normal mill-made shirt, and we have a khadi shirt. So what would be a savings on environment, CO2 emission, on water, on saving trees, saving pollution, and all of that. And they have come up to those kind of values, ESV values. And we have now started working in collaboration with them, and we are aiming to develop the ESV of everything that we do, all the products that we do, so that it gives a message that we as an individual, we have a number now. We know that these are the kind of pollution figures that are there, but if we do this, and if we make the right kind of choices, this is how much savings we can make. And that is something that we really want to emphasize, and we really want to get people to get involved, because once they know the numbers, once they know that things are in their own hands to do something about it, rather than just getting worried about it, or and somehow getting actively involved in saving the CO2 values, saving the forest, saving the land. So that's something that we are working on right now, and we are very, very, very excited that now finally we have managed to put those kind of numerical values to the products that we sell.
I think that's wonderful. Well, we've talked about it because obviously we're going to come on board and work with you on all of that. It's so impressive.
Absolutely.
I absolutely
Yeah,
love
yeah.
it. Yeah, I mean, I think it's another thing that there's been a real change, hasn't there, in the industry, moving on from developing from the stories of things to talking a lot more about the impacts of things. And SDGs is sustainable development goals is a large part of that. And I think, as you say, there's now much more need for measurable impact to be able to say, so people can actually say, like this scarf, for example, I know that by buying this scarf from Where Does It Come From, that was made by Moralfibre, we are saving this much from, compared with buying a scarf from a high street brand. So I think that's going to be absolutely amazing when that is available for all of your products, you
Yeah,
know, and I'm certainly going to be
yeah,
shouting at that from the rooftops. And I think it's the same from the social side as well, isn't it? I mean, I think finding some way to measure, because we know, you and I know, because you see it every day, and I've seen it when I visited and heard from you about the positive impacts of working with artisan groups and rural marginalized groups and cooperatives. We know that you're providing livelihoods, but being able to actually prove that with measurable data and say, we gave jobs to these people who, you know, would otherwise have found it really difficult to get jobs, or people that you have are vulnerable for other reasons. If we can talk about that, that's going to really help people relate to it a bit more, isn't it?
mm, 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 mm. Absolutely. You have been doing quite an interesting work on impact as well, weren't you?
Yeah, no, we're looking as well at the social side, and I'm going to hopefully work with you on the environmental side, because I'm just find it one a bit of a potted history. I don't even know if I've spoken to you much about this as a bigger picture, but Where Does It Come From obviously started off as a retail brand purely, and really over the last couple of years, I've been trying to drive that into more of a B2B business, primarily, well, two reasons really. One is because there's been a lot of emerging ethical fashion brands that are doing a fantastic job, and as far as I'm concerned, I'm happy to let them do that job of creating ethical fashion and doing amazing things. I'm trying to, what my vision is impact. I want to be making a positive impact. So I'm happy to let them do the fashion stuff, and we'll carry on doing our basics. But I've been trying to get businesses who have got budgets for things like corporate clothing, for gifts, for their own
Mm-hmm.
products. Let's get them spending that budget on ethical and sustainable goods. And to do that, you need to be explaining to them why they should be doing it. So by doing this, you might be spending a bit more, but you're having this much impact on the environment, you're having this much impact on the people that you're giving jobs for. And we can tell you that by showing you the whole traceable story all the way through. So as you know, because we've worked on several projects together so far, that is starting to get traction at the moment. It's needing the evidence to persuade people that it's worth them spending
Yes.
that bit more money. So, but we're pushing on with it, and we obviously will be working hand in hand with Moralfibre on many of these projects.
I'm so excited that now that you take all the work, the hard work that you've done, and you made these. Where do the clothes come from? The transparency to such a high level, by talking about it constantly, and communicating with people and selling the products accordingly. Now you're going up to the next level of talking to the corporate. I think that is where the measurables always come very handy to them, because they want to measure their own impact. And I think this is probably the best time for everybody to be able to do that, and to be able to use this opportunity to make wise choices. It's not that we are saying that you don't choose anything, you don't have it, but you make the wise choices. And I think that is where your contribution is going to be so fantastic. And I really, really wish that more and more people buy into it, and get the impact analysis done. So yeah, it's
Yeah,
very exciting times.
yeah, it is really exciting, actually. I mean, at the moment, what we're seeing, to be honest, is we're talking to a lot of businesses, as you can imagine, and smaller businesses, I would say, that already have this ethical, sustainable vision. They're very much up for it. Some of them can't afford it, but we build the relationships with them, and sometimes we may compromise a bit on products. So they'll say, I want to buy, I don't know, 1,000, and actually I can only afford 200, which I know you and I find that sometimes slightly frustrating, because that's a huge amount of work for a small amount of output. And what we really want is the bigger companies to take those same steps and say, well, we're going to buy 10,000 of that, 20,000 of that, because then we can start having the traction, can't we, between us, of making real
Yeah,
change, making real positive impact. So
absolutely,
if anyone's
absolutely.
listening,
Yeah.
come and talk. that would be
I'm
that would
sure.
be fantastic.
Yeah,
Can
yeah.
always
No,
can
I'm
always
sure that will
tell.
be. Yeah, but
Anyway,
at
so
least even sometimes I feel, Joe, is that of course people are going to buy it, and we want people to really buy into it. but even to create that kind of an awareness of an impact that you're making, even the talk that you're having, the conversations that you're having with people, and making them aware that all these matters.
Yeah.
Maybe sometimes, it takes some time, and maybe this is a bit ahead of time, but at least we've come so far from what it was before, that nobody really bothered. Just getting from China or getting cheap was completely okay, and now people realize that it is not okay. I
Yes.
think that itself has been a great contribution that you guys have made, and I
And
mean,
you.
jointly made, of
Yeah.
course. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right. And I think that that is a change of conversation. And certainly I'm finding that it used to always be about money, didn't it? The whole conversation was about money. How much is it? No, our budget is
yes,
only this. We can't do anything. Oh, well, there's no point in even spending the time. But now there's a big drive in big businesses. And I want to particularly mention NatWest here, NatWest Bank, because NatWest Bank have put so much in place to try and support. They put a climate accelerator together, which we're on. Where does it come from? It's on. And they're doing all sorts of projects, and they don't just talk about the money. Of course, as a business, you have to consider the money, but there are other measurable impacts on your marketing, on your corporate social responsibility, and on staff retention, because people want to work for a business that is doing
yes,
good, and you and I know we're both working currently on a project with a big financial auditing company, and if that comes off, that will be a major step forward, because that's a company that would always have looked at the bottom line, now looking at
yeah.
bigger things. So
Yeah, and
important
they
step.
can then take the lead, Joe, which is going to be great. The companies like that, the companies that you're working with right now, and once they take the steps towards it, I think they themselves become so dual advantage, that they would use it, but at the same time they can become the thought leaders
Yeah.
and action leaders, I suppose, so
Yeah.
that others can follow that. Well, if they can do it, we can do it. And I think that is it's always challenging, it's always difficult, it's always uh, almost unthinkable that, oh, how can this big companies are ever going to think about it? But if you don't do it, then it's never going to happen. So that's
Exactly
something
right.
that we learn from an experience, that you have to keep hitting at it, keep going at it, keep going at it in a positive manner, in a confident manner, and put your cases across, put your thoughts across,
Yeah.
and
And
put the
evidence.
reality across
Yeah.
more than anything else, because these are the realities that nobody's talking about. So it's good to really talk about all of that, and I think that is where you're going to move the signpost, and move the companies towards a different level. So
Well,
I think that's
somebody,
fantastic what you're doing. Yeah.
thank you. Somebody very clever said to me a couple of years ago, and I'll name drop her. It's Claire Lissaman, the founder of Arthur and Henry Shirts, and she said to me a couple of years ago when we were having a conversation that basically a lot of smaller business might go under if they are the thought leadership businesses. The reality of the world is they might go under, they might lose their business, but just by existing they have pushed the agenda forward. Just by doing what they did and talking the talk, customers expect more. They go to the bigger companies and say, well, those people were doing that, why can't you do that? So although financially their vision that might be just to drive the conversation forward, even if they don't succeed as a business themselves. And I find that quite heartening, in a way, that you think, well, it won't have ever been a waste. If whatever happens in the future, it won't ever have been a waste for any of us, because we'll have
Yeah.
pushed the
Yeah.
story forward. Anyway, I'm
Yeah.
thinking of time. One
Just one more thing
Oh
I
yeah, you
wanted to
go ahead.
say. Yeah, one more thing I wanted to say. Well, it is something that when you're talking about the name and somebody said that, I remember you probably, it was not your words, but you have always coined the word human to human,
Mhm.
and we are going to use that for our next campaign. That human to human without costing the earth.
That's lovely. That is
So
lovely.
that's
No, I'm just
something that we are going to take forward. So that's something which you contributed to Moral Fiber
Thank
while we were
you.
talking about it.
Yeah.
So this is going to be human to human without costing the earth, is
Yeah, I
something that
think
we're going to go ahead with.
I don't remember where that came from. I think it just came out of a conversation, when because you have B2B, don't you, business to business, and
Yes,
and
yes,
for me, as
yes.
you know, I get really cross with this whole, oh, it's just business, it's not personal, it's just business. Well, no, we're all humans at the end of the day. We're all
Absolutely,
people. Um,
absolutely,
Anyway,
absolutely.
talking of people, that brings me on to my next question, which will probably change the mood a little bit. We We're hearing terrible reports on our news and from friends and colleagues in India about what's happening there. So first of all, I want to give you my sympathies and tell you that you're all really in our thoughts at the moment. But if you could give us an outline of the situation that you're seeing, that you're hearing from for yourself, and also the artisans and the rural marginalized communities that you're working with about the current situation with the pandemic. And also, if there's anything that anyone listening can do to help, please let us know.
Okay. Yes, of course it is painful. Of course, it is painful to see there's so many people struggling, and I think, as I explained to you in the beginning, that the whole thing sort of shot up so fast, and this new strand that has come up that creates people who really get corona. They get the breathing problem very quickly in 2-3 days time. So there has been the the first wave was not like this. You know, people were getting the infection, but most of them were at home, or they were getting treated in the hospital without the hospital the oxygen and all of that. But this trend is something that really goes into the people's lungs very quickly, those who get affected, and that is why. I mean, I'll give you an example that in my city, Ahmedabad, we had generally the oxygen need was something like 75 units a day, and within 2 days the oxygen need became 1,000 plus units. And I'm not saying that, I mean, of course, at the moment, everything looks really, really negative, but we also know that the government and the municipal corporations and the hospitals and all that, they're increasing the beds, they're increasing the supply, they're increasing. But the way things are happening, it is completely out of hand for anybody for that matter. And everybody agrees that what is happening in this last month in India is unprecedented. You talk about Brazil, you talk about USA, but this was a very quickly, very fast, very quickly, like it was like a fire. It sort of really engulfed everything. So that was one thing. Second thing was that last year it wasn't really affecting the villages. This time they do. And people say that, you know, younger people also get it, but probably that is because so many older people are vaccinated now, so they get less of it, but the younger people do. So that is another reason where it is a lot of concern. And at the moment, I mean, more than anything else, it is just supplying oxygen and supplying the medication and all that, and trying to coordinate everything. We are very, very grateful now that we hear that we are also getting support from other countries. But it is painful. It is really, really sad to see how people are struggling for the basic things. And it can't be helped. I mean, no matter as many blame games you can make to support the political parties that you believe in, the support the governments that you believe in, okay, all of that. You can have as many battles as you want, but that is at the end of the day, the supplies has to be there and the support has to be there, and everybody has to be working together to do that. And I know quite a few group of individuals, group of NGOs, the charity groups and all that coming out, helping out. Even if you go into the hospitals, the free food is supplied. Because another thing about the corona is that when somebody is in isolation, what happens with the food? So the food supply people have increased, the medication, you know. So there are lot of charity things coming up. But of course, the pictures that you see, and one thing I wanted to say here is that I'm sure other countries, including UK and Brazil and America and European countries and all that, they have seen huge number of losses, huge number of deaths, and they must be going through very similar thing. Unfortunately, in India, I think those things really come out in the media with, you know, sprayed pictures are like all over. And I could be wrong, but to me, it just is kind of a kind of a intrusion into people's privacy when they are mourning. And I think that is something that I am not really very comfortable with. But I suppose that's the freedom of press, and freedom of press does help because it brings out the issues. But sometimes, you know, all these aspects also come up. So the only way we can help, I mean, I can request everybody that please don't stop ordering stuff from us. and don't stop your, or if you are not buying from artisans from India, please do that. There are lots of other, apart from what Moralfibre does, as I said, there are lots and lots of other portals where they specifically support crafts. And if anybody's interested, I can give you the details and the names and all that, be it fabric, be it, they make all kinds of brass things, metal things, all of that, and lots of work with stone, lot of work with ceramic. So there are lots and lots of artisans who work with some amazing things, and all of their work is stopped. And at the end of the day, once this tide is over, people are going to be even more in need of money, because all the savings that they had for all this time are getting depleted, and then the work is not really coming their way. So once this tide is over, I think my huge request is that support the artisans, support the local, support the people who are marginalized, support to other people in the villages, and well, we can between you and I, we can even help people to find those kind of things if they're looking for things, and we can work together. And I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's lovely, a lovely thought, because I think you're right. We see the pictures of what's happening now, but we have to think a month, 2 months down the road. We need these people to have work when they're starting to get better. They need to be having livelihoods. They need to be having dignity of the work that they want to work with. So that's a really good point. And yes, there are organisations in the UK that buy from artisan groups such as yourself. Mention Boho Homes, Ethicana. We can link them up with all of those. Cardi London, of course, and we will. We'll keep supporting you through the things that you buy from Where Does It Come From, and all of our friends that you hear me talking about and linking up with.
Absolutely.
So it's really important that we keep buying, because as you said, that whole buy local, buy community, buy meaningfully, to use that word again, has such a positive impact on people. So
Mm-hmm.
yes, I take your message completely
Yeah.
for that one.
Yeah.
So
It's all about the choice, I would say, Joe, that, what kind of choices you make and how your choices are going to impact people. And I think this is the time to really think very hard about the choices that we make, and, make your choices, as you said, quite meaningful and something that really takes you forward. So, yeah.
yes, that is exactly right, and that moves me on beautifully to my last question, which is, what would you like to see for the future, moving out of this pandemic? What would you like to see the world for Moralfibre looking like, and your artisans?
Wow. Um, I think I really would want to believe that people have learned the true value of things. And the true value of things is when I mean, we have in India, there's a big campaign that's, it's called Vocal for Local, means that I think what our Prime Minister was trying to say is that anything to make it into a kind of an international brand, it has to be very popular locally. So first of all, promote the local products so that they become a kind of a big brand in India, and then they can become bigger brand abroad. That's what has happened everywhere else as well. So they are saying that support your own and all that. But at the same time, I take this one step further, and I said that support your local environment, where it is not just the community and the crafts, but also your local environment wherever you are. And I think that is where it makes a lot of difference, that wherever you are, you support your own local stuff. And if I say that, well, how will that translate to people like you all in England? Because we are supporting our local community, but at the same time, when we say for fabrics, not many England doesn't really, Britain doesn't really produce the cotton or fabric. So when they try to buy it, at least they have to see that the fabrics that they are buying, or the products that they're buying, are supporting at least some community somewhere, rather than big business houses and people who work on a global basis and all that, and support reducing the air miles while production. That is another thing that we are really supporting, that even if the bigger fashion houses or buying houses, right now it is like, buying the cotton from somewhere and yarn from somewhere and stitched from somewhere, and so any product one can do so many miles even before it reaches the shop. At least one thing that they should do is that if they get the yarn from somewhere or fabric from somewhere, it has to be produced locally. So at least whatever that you're doing, supporting at least one community rather than doing just for money pinching. You're taking the product here, there, and everywhere. Rather than that, if you just support the communities wherever it is, whether the community is here or in Ghana or in Chile or in anywhere, but at least be more community-based production that you should be supporting. That's my, I
Yeah,
don't
no,
know whether it's making sense or not.
it is
Yeah.
making sense, because to me it chimes beautifully with the whole transparency thing, doesn't it? And
Yes,
we're
yes.
hearing so much at the moment about transparency at last, thanks to movements like Fashion Revolution. People are talking about bigger things than just where it was made. So my big bugbear, as you well know, is when you buy a t-shirt or something and it says made in the UK, and of course it's not made in the UK. It might have been sewn in the UK or something like that, but the cotton will not have come from the UK. Definitely not. So you need to have a bigger transparency trail there, and then you can start seeing things like, did the cotton come from India? Then did it get taken to China to be dyed, or did it get taken somewhere else for something else to happen to it, or something to be printed on it before finally ending up in the supermarket or the shop where it was for £5? I mean, you and I talked recently about jeans, didn't we? Because we have a client who's wanting to make jeans, and they're coming. We found some organic certified cotton jeans in Tesco for £15. But when you start
Yes.
breaking that down to how that could possibly be, and this is not running Tesco down in any way, because I know they buy lots and lots of organic cotton and work that way, but it's looking at the chain as it goes through of some of these things. And people, unfortunately, the expectation then becomes that paying £5 for a t-shirt or £15 for a pair of organic jeans is the right price, whereas of course if you break down the transparency, then that can be seen to be a lot of nonsense. The only caveat there is that when I did speak to about the Tesco issue, again, there's another whole thing around bulk buying, isn't there? So that's another reason. When you're working with smaller artisan groups, you can't work with the same kinds of numbers, and so the prices will be higher for that as well. But generally, I would say the transparency story, things coming from one area, you're avoiding all that carbon of traveling things around, and it's going to be so much better for the community and the environment to do that. So as the projects we work on, everything's made within Gujarat, the cotton's grown in Gujarat, the spinning, the weaving, the sewing, the dyeing, everything in Gujarat, then one
Absolutely.
journey to
Yeah.
the UK and it's there. So, and I think to me that's about as best as you're going to get with cotton
Absolutely.
from
Absolutely.
the UK.
Yeah.
Anyway, we've had a lovely chat, and we've been going for about 45 minutes or something like that. So I think
We
that's
can go
gone.
on forever, but I think we
You and
better
I will
stop.
go on for it, and hopefully we'll be able to do it face to face, some lovely place.
Oh,
Just seeing
absolutely.
inside your
Absolutely.
studio, and I can hear the birds outside singing there, and it just makes me think, oh, I really wish I was there. I know you have
Well,
peacocks nearby, and you know how I love peacocks, and monkeys and all sorts of things. And one day I hope to come back
I'm
soon
sure.
and
I'm
see
sure.
it.
I'm sure. Yeah. Yeah.
And anyway, best of luck to you with
And
what
to
you're
you.
doing, and we will
Yeah.
talk regularly as we always do. And
Yeah.
my best wishes to the rest of the team.
Thank you.
And thank you very much for spending the time talking with me today.
Thank you so much, Joe. It was really great talking, and thank you for inviting me for this chat. And all the very best.
And
All the
you,
very best for all of us. Yeah. Thank
yes,
you.
and I will
Thank you. You
say
take care.
goodbye.
Thank you.
Bye
Thank you.
bye.
Bye bye. Bye.